I realized recently that I didn't fix my ADHD, I fixed my environment. If you're a woman like me with ADHD, or maybe ADHD or autism, I think we've spent a lot of our lives feeling like we're just bad at doing life, when really what we needed was an environment that supported us and helped us with the areas that we struggle with. Now, it makes sense to me that I wouldn't have caught on to this because I am a person who was not diagnosed until my 40s. But it's possible that your life might feel like you're bad at it because it hasn't been set up in a way that helps you thrive. So I don't know if you relate to this, but ADHD as a mom especially, but just as a woman in her 40s, can feel a lot like waking up, opening your eyes, and just feeling like so overwhelmed. So overwhelmed with like everything that you have to do and all of the appointments and all of the things and being on time and pulling yourself together and leaving your house. Yeah, there's just this real doom cloud that can happen, especially the more responsibilities that you get as a person with ADHD. And on top of just struggling to keep up with your life and just feeling like everything's chaos and you're drowning, then things bug us that don't bug other people. Like I hear my dog licking in the background and my brain won't tune it out, you know? So there's this element where your body is just always on high alert because your brain isn't tuning out the noise. And so it's like overwhelming to have kids. It's overwhelming to have kids when you have ADHD. And I had 5 of them, which is a story that I've told in many videos. But especially I told one recently where I was talking about how high control religion really made me think like that's what I needed to do with my life. And that yeah, I signed myself up for a really challenging life. And I think a lot of us women with ADHD or autism are very justice driven. And I mentioned justice because for me, I have a multiracial adoptive family and one of my kids has Down syndrome. She's from China. So like a lot of me having the kind of chaos in my life that I have is because I care about kids. I care about justice. I care about disabled people. But then I got myself into this life that is very overwhelming sometimes. So if you have a life right now where you're just completely drained by the errands and the scheduling and the executive functioning, I think it's just the cruelest reality that women who are neurodivergent, who are moms, have to not only executive function for themselves. Isla, chill out. Okay, at this point she was like wrestling with a pillow, so it wasn't just little dog snuffy noises. If you have a hard time just keeping up because you're trying to executive function for yourself, you're trying to remember to like eat and move your body and see the sun. And I think it's really funny how many of us like really don't want to take a shower. She's a camera hog. So there's this reality where I think a lot of us who are neurodivergent women, especially at this stage of life in your 40s, maybe you're a mom, maybe you're helping with your aging parents, you got a job, you're just trying to like deal with your early perimenopause symptoms. That's another video. If you find yourself in that space, I really want to remind you that this is not a discipline problem. This is not even worse, I hate this term, a laziness problem. Listen, you are not lazy. I am sure of it. If you are a woman who is neurodivergent, you are not lazy. You are working so hard. You are working so hard, so much harder than people who are not neurodivergent to just do the basic stuff that is like so easy and simple to just like have a task and follow a task list for other people. So I really want you to remember today, please, that you are not lazy. You don't need more discipline. If you are overwhelmed, it might be an environmental problem. It might be a life structure problem. It likely is. There's probably a lot of friction points in your life that are making it hard for you to just function and do all the things. And of course you feel overwhelmed because your body's always on high alert because you have all these friction points in your life that are making it hard to feel calm and are making it hard to have clear thoughts. So if you do feel like you're drowning or you feel overwhelmed, this is actually a logical response to a life that isn't supporting you, a life where you don't have the frameworks in place to make it feel humane and livable for yourself as a person who's neurodivergent. So for me, ultimately, leaving America was what I needed. It was the exit hatch, or I think of the button that like launches you out of a car, you know. These don't exist. I don't know why I think of this, but like sometimes I'm always like joking that there's a button in the car that launches you out. Anyway, I pressed the button that launched me out of America because I felt like I was drowning there as a woman who had no idea that I was neurodivergent at the time. I'm Andy. I'm a mom of 5 and I live in Portugal. If you need more honest conversations like this one, I encourage you to subscribe. I talk a lot about making your life more humane and learning how to take care of yourself when you're juggling just way too many things. If that's you, please hang around and subscribe. But interestingly, I started accommodating for myself years before I even had any idea that I was neurodivergent. I started just intuitively changing my environment to feel more humane for me as a person who was neurodivergent and trying to survive and sort of drowning. And I mean, maybe likely any woman who has 5 kids and has kids with disabilities and all of that, like any woman would feel, I think, like you're drowning, maybe, most likely. But for me, as I look back through my life, especially my adult life, my neurodivergence affects a lot of things. And I started accommodating for myself. One of the first ways that I started accommodating for myself is, I mean, we were doing everything with church. We were hosting small group and we were leading this and we were leading that, and my husband was on the neighborhood committee, and like we were just doing all the things. We were volunteering, and we had like a bunch of little kids, and one of them had a diagnosis that was really, really challenging. And we realized like we need to quit everything. That was when, I mean, we had a good excuse. We were bringing our 4th child into our home. He was a preemie. Yeah, I traveled to bring him home. So at that point, and this goes back to the high control religion circumstances and the like church pressure to have a really big family without really taking into consideration that, maybe my capacity as a mom wasn't actually cut out for having a giant family. It isn't, but here I am. So we brought our fourth baby into our home and we quit everything. And now I know that that's absolutely what I needed to do. And I think anyone with four kids, I mean, at the time, it was easy to explain to people, like, our oldest is 5.5, and we just adopted for the second time, and we have a baby who is really struggling with formula and etc. So thankfully, in that scenario, even though I didn't know I was neurodivergent, I didn't know that's why I was struggling so deeply, I was able to explain it and we were able to quit everything. And that was part of accommodating for myself. Like, I needed to not have more things to do than I absolutely had to do, because the amount of things that you absolutely have to do when you have four children is a lot of things. That was one way I accommodated for myself. Another one is, for me, beauty is like oxygen. That's why I have plants all over my house. There's a new baby leaf here. My monstera is having a baby leaf. Beauty for me is essential for not giving in to despair. And so we were living in a neighborhood that was not a very beautiful place, and it was a pretty intense, stressful neighborhood. And then my home life was very stressful because I had four young kids and we were dealing with disabilities and all of that. And I was neurodivergent and didn't know it. So at some point we decided that we were going to move to a calmer, more nature-y, beautiful neighborhood. And so that's another way that I accommodated for myself without knowing. I just realized everything doesn't have to be chaos. Like, I don't have to pick the hardest choice. I can choose ease. I can choose ease in my neighborhood. I don't need to live in a really hard neighborhood when I have a life that's really hard and intense. And so that was another way that before we even moved abroad, I began accommodating for myself and how I'm built and what makes me feel alive. And that's beauty and nature and peaceful, calm atmospheres, especially because my life requires a lot of me, just as a neurodivergent person, but then on top of it, as a mom of so many children and with so many high needs. And then ultimately, I figured out that I had had this dream to move abroad for 20 years, and I felt so alive when we left America, and I didn't feel like I was drowning. And so we made the choice to uproot everybody and move abroad. And that's been a really good decision for us, but not without bumps. So many bumps. I mean, in Tbilisi, my kitchen would like electric shock me unless I wore rubber shoes. The electric system there was like probably not up to code. So, there are things about this international life that have been very bumpy. I've spoken about that a lot. I did a whole series on our accidentally nomadic journey. You can check that out. But the point being that there were places in the world, there are environments that made my body feel better. They were not perfect environments. They are not perfect environments, even here in Portugal. But environments where my body felt better and I could function better. For you, I have a couple thought-provoking questions. I'm wondering if you might be able to identify a part of your day or a time of your life that sort of just sets you up for failure. Sort of like me reading lots of doom news right as soon as I wake up, or opening my WhatsApp and getting all of these messages and feeling like there's no space for me to just be. Maybe there's some things that you can do, just little tweaks today that would make you feel more okay. Are there things that you're blaming yourself for or you're being hard on yourself for that are actually things that are environmental that you could really help yourself out by changing your environment so it's less overwhelming? I wear earplugs a lot, especially when my body starts to feel like with the noise, or my dear darling child who sings, my daughter with Down syndrome, sings really loudly and not the most melodically. And I am so happy she's happy, and I just close my door and put in my earplugs when she's doing that. Like she's like watching videos and like singing along or listening to music and singing along. Anyway, these are things that I do. Are there things that you can do today to help you just a little bit feel like life is less overwhelming? What would make one of the hardest parts of your day like just a little bit less loud for you, a little bit less agitating? That's what I would love to encourage you to think about today. So if this landed for you and your whole life feels a little bit like it's in the wrong container, I feel you because I've been there. And I made a resource called the Get Me Out of Here bundle. So if you're an American who is saying like, get me out of here, but you're not even sure if it's possible, that's what the bundle is for. I mean, I moved abroad with my 5 kids in 2019, and I made lots of mistakes and I learned a lot of things, and it's all there. Real budgets for living in Europe, non-visa pathways to just slow travel through Europe. There's a lot of super practical stuff in the bundle that will just answer the question for you. Is this possible or is it not possible? So if you're somebody who's wanting to leave, that's for you. And I really hope that it helps you. It's in my description. And today I just want to remind you, as I always do, whatever you can do today to dare to truly live, to feel alive in your own life, whether it's stopping and listening to some music or looking at a monstera leaf or just coloring with markers, whatever you can do to dare to truly live and be glad to be alive today, I want to encourage you to do that. And one of the best ways that I found to help me with that is my practice of finding the beauty. So I work really hard to notice beautiful things, like how the light hits my plants, or, how kind it is that my husband brings me coffee in bed, or looking at the clouds. There's still beauty in the world, even when the world feels like a dumpster fire. So that's what I do to stay afloat. And I hope that that practice helps you too. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you for being with me.